In episode 4 of Health Rebels, we're speaking with Fred Detwiler, aka Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred. So Fred Detwiler, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Ian. It's good to be here.
So I want to start off with, I took a look at your website, tried to get some background on you, and of the people who I've interviewed up to this point, I've basically gotten forks over knives, success story articles, and just kind of, it's been a good background into who this person is. But there was very little information that I could find on you, so it makes this interview even more exciting for me because I want to learn more about you. So I want to get started with a timeline first. I read on your website that in January of 2013, you sort of started your plant-based journey. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, when I was 57.
57. So take us before you started your plant-based journey. You were a contractor, correct? Talk to us about what you did, what you ate, what your lifestyle was like before your plant-based journey.
Well, I started my own contracting business when I was 20 years old, and so I'm 61 going on 62 in March. And so I've been a contractor for 40 years, doing additions, kitchens, bathrooms, any type of home remodeling. I was from a family of 7. I had brothers and sisters, and so we followed the standard American diet as most people did. And as I got older, in my 40s and 50s, you gradually put on weight, year by year. Especially once I got married, it seemed like the weight started to come on with my wife being a good cook, and so I reached the point where I was weighed 265. And it was hard to climb ladders and get around. I used to get under my truck and change my oil, so those things just stopped happening because you were incapable of doing those things, getting up on roofs and attics. It was just becoming more and more difficult. Mm-hmm. And through the years, I've been to the doctors, and so when I was 57, and I weighed 265, they had a doctor's appointment, and they wanted to put me on some type of medication for high blood pressure and so on. And I also had my father. He died at 47 of colon cancer. And I even had a brother that died of leukemia when he was 18. And so, that's always kind of made me think about food. Even back then, when my father died, I kind of was thinking that it was the food. Although I didn't give a lot of thought about it, I didn't know anything about nutrition at that point. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, it's always been on my mind, Mm-hmm. And so I had made that doctor's appointment when I was 57, and the doctors wanted to put me on medication. And so, being a contractor all these years and doing electrical work, plumbing, I've done a lot of troubleshooting through the years of problems and fixing problems and getting down to the root of the problems, and so when the doctors at that point wanted to put me on medication, I knew intuitively that was not the correct way to go. They were just treating the symptom. They weren't getting to the root of the problem or the cause of the problem. And so at that point, and also I had a grandson at that point, when I was 57, Hunter, and it was hard to get down on the floor to play with him. And so what I was doing was eating myself to early death and disease. I realized that. And so I really had to think, really hard about my life and the direction that it was going. And I had a lot of aunts and uncles that died at an early age. And so once you start learning about the truth, and your eyes are open to, it's the food that's causing these chronic diseases and illnesses. And so anyhow, when the doctors wanted to put me on medication, it caused me to want to search out about food and nutrition, educate myself. And again, I know I didn't want to get hooked on the system because I knew that was not the way to go. And so searching the internet, I found Dr. John McDougall, and And since then, I just started learning slowly on about nutrition, and just started sharing it with others. But I had been going to the Y at different YMCA at different times, and did exercise, but and you lose some weight, but nevertheless, you're still always carrying a lot of extra body fat.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're still eating a lot of the high fat, high calorie foods. And so, but once I discovered John McDougall, then I also discovered Forks Over Knives, and I watched Forks Over Knives, and again, that's an amazing documentary as far as teaching about nutrition and how the unhealthy foods are causing these chronic illnesses. And so from then I got the Starch Solution book, and then the China study, and you learn about Dr. McGregor. In fact, it was last year that then my wife started to come on board some. And then she was also diagnosed with some illness. And then at that point, we heard about the cruise, the holistic cruise, Holiday at Sea. And so it was her suggestion that we go on that. We went on that last year, March of 2015. We both went on that cruise, and it was a teaching educational cruise. And but it really opened my eyes up, and my wife's eyes up, to nutrition and the benefits of a healthy diet. Mm-hmm. And so she talked with Dr. McGregor there, and was really encouraged to eat healthy. And so she came on board 100% compliant with as far as I did. But anyhow, the health benefits now of me switching over has just been amazing.
So besides the weight you said, and I think you maybe mentioned blood pressure, you cited a few other things on your website that you were sort of feeling or suffering from, signs and symptoms. What were those?
And that's a good question. In fact, I just thought of this last night. About 5-6 years ago, when I was in the gym, I was doing some type of exercise with my leg, and it caused a hot spot on my lower right leg. And I guess some people thought maybe it was a thrombosis or something, a deep vein thrombosis problem. So I went into the doctors that morning, and they put those monitors on your skin. They check your blood vessels and all. And I remember the doctor specifically telling me there 5 years ago that I had the arteries of an 80-year-old. And so, and of course they did nothing about it. It didn't bother them at all. But so that was one of my problems. But yeah, my blood pressure was about 150/90. That was when I was 57, went in for the doctor's appointment, and my cholesterol was the high 200s. At that point too, I was experiencing a lot of joint pain, a lot of pain in my hands. I remember the doctors telling me that I had some arthritis in my back, years ago. Let's see, what other problems did I have? I had a lot of leg cramps, muscle spasms behind my legs. I also suffered from impotence at that point, some. And I'm trying to think. I have a whole list of stuff that I actually was suffering ailments from. I had angina, where I would get an occasional heart pains there in my chest. And so a whole host of symptoms. I was suffering from the standard American diet.
And so in 2013, you decided to change your diet and lifestyle. And is that when you sort of took on this persona of Farmer Fred, and when you finally started growing a lot of your own vegetables, or had you previously been a recreational farmer before 2013?
Good question. I've been gardening now for about 25 years, and I had always gardened here at my house. And so I've always enjoyed gardening. And a couple of years ago, I did expand the back section that people can see in my videos. But once I started to transition over to a whole food plant-based diet, I tell people my garden took on a whole new meaning, because then it was my fuel source for healthy living. And it wasn't until 2015 is when we started Plant Smart Living. I actually had my cell phone, and just for the fun of it, I did a little tour for my family. I think it was a 9-minute video. And my son-in-law, Howie, who's here with me, he's the tech guy. He likes YouTube and all that stuff. And so he saw my little video I did on my cell phone, and he really thought it was really good. And so at that point, and they had a camera that we used, a Sony camera at that time. We used that for about a year. And at that point, we started doing some videos, because now I've always liked teaching, and I never had a platform to do it. And so starting YouTube, I had a platform I could teach about gardening. Then also I could teach about nutrition, because growing your own food and a plant-based diet, they go hand in hand. It's a win-win situation. And so that's the one reason we started Plant Smart Living, is so that we could teach about gardening and nutrition.
And I will say that your website looks very clean, very professional, and your YouTube, I think your Facebook page had 5,000 or 6,000 followers. I enjoy seeing your posts every day or on a weekly basis. What since 2013, what's been the hardest thing to transition to or to change from where you were? And how did you do it? How did you tackle that problem?
Well, for me, as I tell people, some people are like the Titanic. It takes a while for them to turn. And it's all based upon information. It was for me. You're all of a sudden not going to learn 100% of what you need to do. For me, it was a slow process of getting away from the meats and the dairy. I mean, yeah, I was one who I loved going to all-you-can-eat spare ribs in restaurants, just consuming mass quantities of meat and dairy and shoveling in the food, at that point. But over time, again, educating and learning, you start making changes. I remember I finally learned about cutting out oils from my diet. And once I did that, I dropped an extra 10 pounds. But I enjoy rice. I enjoy potatoes. The beautiful thing is, it's not about portion control or counting calories anymore. It's all about the type of food you eat, not so much the amount of food. And so for me, it's been a nice, simple transition for me. And along the way, as you see the benefits, you become your own experiment as you're a week into it, or 2 weeks, or a month or more, you begin to see these health benefits from changing. And so that's what has encouraged me to just keep on going and regaining my energy, restoring my energy. I tell people it's like I've developed a set of wings.
Yeah.
Because now, like, I'm up on the roof again, under my truck, and up in the attic. So I'm aging backwards, basically. And
Yeah.
It just amazes me how our bodies are wanting to heal themselves, as long as we have to stop the foods that are harming us, or injuring our bodies.
You're like Benjamin Button. You're aging in reverse, and just be careful when you're up there on that ladder. You're down over 60 pounds, Fred, with new energy. Your joints don't hurt. Your angina's gone. Your blood pressure's back down to normal. I would classify that as a success, and I'm sure a lot of other people would. A lot of your followers would. Why have you succeeded when so many other people before you who have tried to diet, who have tried to lose weight and become healthier, have failed?
Well, there certainly is a lot of confusion out there. And also, by the way, too, my total cholesterol is like 139 now, and my blood pressure is like 110/70. That may fluctuate a little bit. Pretty much it stays right around there. And my weight is around 199. The diets, again, of course, they're designed for failure. A lot of profit made from them. You may see temporary results, but they're not really thinking long-term health benefits, And because of the fat content in the diets, it's just too much fat, 30-40% or more is too many fat calories. And it's a satiety too, the food that they're eating is just not satisfying compared to the starch, because again, we're designed to eat starch as human beings. Again, the whether it's the Atkins diet or Jenny Craig, a lot of them are all based on counting calories and portion control. It's a very strict rule to way to live. We just we just can't live that way as a lifestyle because it's not ingrained in us. It's not satisfying enough to live under those rules and numbers. And so that's why there's a lot of failure out there. And again, a lot of the emphasis is on exercise, exercise, not so much on the fat content of your diet. And so I think a lot of people become discouraged because they're not seeing the results that they want to or hoping to see, and so, but with a plant-based diet, you get to eat as much as you want until you're full, and so you're always satisfied. I tend to like to graze myself. I'm a grazer.
That's a really good way of putting it. I think I completely agree is that, and I'm glad you summarized that at the end where, yeah, a lot of these diets and lifestyles, or a lot of these diets, I should say, have, first of all, you're eating the wrong foods and you're calorie counting, and there's no calorie counting. It's made so simple on this plant-based lifestyle. I certainly hope that people who watch this look to you for inspiration. If someone watching this sees themselves in you and are trying to make the push toward better health, what general advice can you give them? Try to paint in broad brushstrokes. Give like 3 big pieces of advice for people trying to get healthier.
Well, I know my wife has always said, as you get older, we're supposed to be in our golden years, So why do you want to put yourself through pain and suffering daily? Because that's what we're doing. I'm more interested in the quality of life, and so with the plant-based lifestyle, certainly your quality of life goes way up. Personally, again, now I have my second grandchild. Again, that was another reason for me to want to really change, is to live a long life, long, healthy life, to be an energetic life, to spend time with my grandchildren. That's one of my big motivators as to why I want to change. Again, we can also be good examples to our friends and family and loved ones who are suffering because of chronic disease. And again, it's the medical system out there that's undermining the health of our nation, with the diets that they're promoting. And, it's all profit-driven industries. They're exploiting and manipulating people all for profit, and so that's the one reason why we started Plant Smart Living, is to encourage people to question everything, question their doctors, do research and check out the scientific studies. Is this really true? Or is it misinformation? Am I being deceived and deluded by the industries, And so, but my biggest encouragement is for my friends and my family to be here a long time and to live a healthy, energetic life, and to be a good example to my friends and family.
What advice would you give people who would like to start their own garden? Again, big, broad brushstrokes. How do people get started?
Well, even if you just have a balcony or a deck, you could start growing in pots, in containers. As long as you have 6 to 8 hours of sunlight, you can grow your own food. You can grow greens, your Swiss chard or kale or tomato plants. They're expensive. You have to go to the store to buy tomatoes and greens, and it's something you can just do. Buy a pack of seeds or buy some transplants and grow your own food. Or if you have a small backyard, you could a raised bed, start with a 4-foot by 8-foot raised garden bed, fill it with some compost, and you could grow your own tomatoes. I did that with my daughter Julie. I put a 4-foot by 8-foot raised garden bed there, put a couple tomato plants, couple peppers, some greens there, Swiss chard and some kale, and she has a wonderful garden, and only for a couple dollars. So you could save a lot of money by growing your own food, and that's also enjoyable and something very rewarding you can do.
And I will plug your website and also your YouTube channel a couple more times. I'll put them down in the description. But I think a great place to start if you want to learn more about gardening is Fred's YouTube channel, where he has a lot of videos, a lot of content, and you can learn a lot about gardening. And the other thing I want to mention is whether you are just starting out gardening, just starting out with this lifestyle, or anything, you have to realize you're going to make mistakes along the way. You might kill a tomato plant or two along the way, but it's all part of the
Right.
process. You may, with this lifestyle, you may say, look, with what I say in a lot of my recent videos is this lifestyle works. You're going to make mistakes, and there are going to be things you do wrong along the way, but learn from those mistakes. And the point of life is learning. It's a constant learning process, right, Fred?
I couldn't agree with you more. It's a big learning curve, I
Yeah.
tell people, but that's what makes life very enjoyable, challenging yourself, and seeing the changes. And I couldn't be makes me more happy to be able to learn and to change and to grow and to teach others. That's what life is all about. That's what's rewarding, is to help others and teach them the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I couldn't agree more that it's a big learning curve, but it's also an exciting learning curve.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned at the beginning that you bought Starch Solution and the China study. And my next question is about books and media that you would recommend to people who want to become healthier. What are some books or media in general, DVDs, that you gravitate towards that you would recommend to people who want to learn to become healthier and learn about the plant-based lifestyle?
Well, the books, again, the Starch Solution is a great book. The China Study, have How Not to Die, out now from Dr. Greger. Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. Again, as Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn says, if your total cholesterol is under 150, you can make yourself heart attack proof. So you talk about good news, and so that's a great book. I'm sure I probably even have a few other books. I have the book from Dr. Furman, from Eat to Live. I used to have that. In fact, I followed him for a little while, but I couldn't. He was not sustainable because he emphasized, make greens your main meal, not enough calories, So as far as DVDs go, I have the Forks Over Knives. That's a wonderful documentary. You can watch that free on Netflix. But Forks Over Knives, Cowspiracy's another one that I've watched. Now, of course, we have Plant Pure Nation. That's there on Netflix, and also there's Eating You Alive is out now. In fact, myself and my wife and son-in-law, we're going to be going to that in another couple weeks here up in Allentown. There's a showing up there that we're going to be going to. So there's certainly a lot of books available, and also online a lot of free information. Dr. John McDougall has the success stories. I would encourage people to go to and read the success stories. And people look at, if it's not following the mainstream media, they think, how could it be true? But I always tell people, in order to find truth, you have to turn the whole system upside down, because on top there's so many. I relate it to digging for potatoes out in my garden. I did a video one time. You hill your potatoes up throughout the summer, but when you go to harvest them, you got to dig down deep to find these potatoes. And it's similar to finding truth out there in the world system today. Conventional wisdom, is based on lies and profit and greed, and so down goes to truth, and so if you really want to find truth with nutrition and some other subjects, you really have to, but nutrition, you really have to do this research yourself and the study yourself if you want to find truth.
And that's about all the questions that I had. And as usual, Fred, I like to give the last word to my guests. If we didn't get to something that you hoped we could have touched on, now is your chance. You can shamelessly plug any social media outlet that you have. The floor is open to you, Fred.
Well, I certainly think we did a pretty good job of covering some questions. Allie, is there anything else? I can't really think of anything offhand. I can only say that this type of lifestyle, for me, it's really something very simple. I like the posts that you make, about the simplicity of your meals. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Once a week, I make a big batch of rice in my Black& Decker rice cooker. I might make that twice a week, but I put 4 cups of dry rice in there, and that'll last us 3-4 days. I make a big pot of beans in my Instapot pressure cooker. I put just a dry bag of beans in, let them cook for an hour at pressure, and maybe low pressure for a couple hours. And so we love our rice and beans and potatoes. And so the lifestyle is very simple. Look at the Asians. They eat a simple diet, and yet they're healthy and trim into the 80s, 90s, and even 100s. So that's the one thing I love about this lifestyle, is the simplicity of the meals that I can. For lunch, I throw in some beans and rice, a little bit of hot sauce, and I don't even heat the beans up. I just keep them in my truck, and rice, I just eat them that way for lunch. But I love the simplicity of it, and of course, you can save 40% on your food bill or more. And so, plus again, and encourage people to grow your own food. It's a wonderful thing to do, and you can save so much money in doing so, because we're so used to going to the supermarkets these days.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Thanks so much again, Fred Detwiler, speaking to us from, is it Western or Eastern Pennsylvania?
Eastern Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Zone 6 from the Garden.
So you can follow Fred on Facebook and YouTube, and if you have any more social media, send those to me. I'll put them down in the description. So thank you again, Fred Detwiler, for your time.
And thank you, Ian. It's been a real pleasure.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care now. Bye.